What's going on, everybody? I'm Bramz, and this is a quick tutorial on how to do Raft skip in Vanilla Dome 3. So going in here, you're going to need a cape, and then we can get Yoshi in the level. So this trick is done in 96 Exit, all castles, you can do it in Lunar Dragon even. Basically any category that goes through Vanilla Dome with a cape is where you're going to find this trick. So I'm going to assume you know how to play the first half of the level. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip right to where we get Yoshi. You can do that by doing a little something like this. I'm going to break the shell while I talk here for a moment. So once you've got Yoshi and you're on this block, you want to hold right Y and B so that you land on the pipe. If you don't hold B, you'll end up down here, and you're gonna have a bad time because that shell will be going back and forth, and it's not fun. So right Y and B to land on the pipe, then let go of B so you fall down quicker, and then you're gonna build P speed up in this area. Oops, my save state was not where I thought it was. So like that, and we got P speed and we can fly. You're going to want to do 2 cape frame rolls up, so you can just tap B twice when you're flying. B, B. I did it a little too much there. They want to be... The first one especially needs to be a very short tap. And you can kind of gauge where you're going to be by looking at the background here. I've paused it right around where the peak of your jump should be. So if you're looking at the background above Mario here, there's the light section that goes up very tall, surrounded by a darker section on the left and right. That's about where you want the peak of your jump to be, right about here. And then if it is, you'll end up going under this wall without hitting, or under the ceiling, without hitting the wall there. So if you go too high, you'll scrape on here, which is bad because you will not reach the blarg. I'll show that again. You don't reach the blarg. The goal is to bounce off of that blarg. So once you're underneath the ceiling, go ahead and hold B again so that you bounce on the blarg. This part isn't very precise. You can hit B pretty early and bounce on the blarg. You can hit it a little bit later. That was too late. You can hit it a little bit later, like that, and still hit the blarg. But note that where you hit the blarg kind of determines the next part of the trick. So just try to get something consistent if you can, or just be able to adapt. So the next step is initiating that Yoshi fly. You want to do that by dismounting Yoshi into the ceiling while you're scraping against it. So a very consistent way to do this is just by doing a full bounce off the blarg and scraping on that wall like this. And then as soon as you go past the threshold of the wall and you start moving right, go ahead and tap A, and then that'll start the Yoshi fly. It's a little slower to do that just because you're scraping against the wall, but it's very consistent, so I recommend that if you're just starting with this trick. But if you want a little bit more of an advanced strat, you can release B and re-grab B. And you have to do it at the right time, or else you'll be too low or too high. If you're too high, that's fine, because you can just scrape against the wall like I was doing before. If you're too low, I'll try to show what happens if you're too low. Well, that can happen if you're way too low. But this will happen. You'll dismount Yoshi into the ceiling, but Yoshi will just keep going, and then you'll end up just in your normal cape flight. That's bad, because you're pretty much always going to die if that happens, unless you're a legend. So after you do the Yoshi fly here, however it is that you want to do it, I'm just going to do the safe way and make a save state. That's a bad save state. Let's try that again. So you're going to do a cape bump here. The easiest way to do that is by sticking out Yoshi's tongue and then tapping left, like that. And then you want to slow down enough so that you hit this next blarg. That's the key here, is hitting this second blarg. So when you hit that blarg, that can happen if you're a little too far left. You actually hit the face of the blarg instead of the top of his head. But once you hit that blarg, make sure that you're not holding any direction on the D-pad. If you hold right when you bounce off of him, you'll just end up in the lava like that. So you want to make sure you're neutral and that you get a really high bounce off of him. So you have to slow down, like I said. I went too fast there and missed the blarg entirely. If you slow down too much, it's hard to get back to the blarg in time. So once you do your neutral bounce off the blarg, just start holding right immediately so you can build up your speed again, and then you can dive bomb through that section there. That's the whole trick. It's kind of tough, but you can get it consistent with practice. It saves a decent amount of time. I don't recommend this strat for beginners. It's just not worth it. Like I said, it only saves a couple seconds. It's literally like 3 seconds or something like that. I don't exactly remember how much it is. But at a high level, it's definitely worth doing. I'll show the whole trick one more time from the start, and then I'll do a little outro, I guess. Alright, so that's Raft Skip. There's not much more I can say about it. At this point, you just have to practice. And eventually you'll get it consistent. I promise, you will. But if you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment, or you can find me on Discord, the SMW Discord, or Blue Sky. I'm also on Blue Sky. All that stuff will be linked down in the description. So, yeah, feel free to hit me up or leave a comment, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.